So we've done our vocal recording, now we need to think about how best to present it for the rest of the mix, and this is going to centre on comping. We start with the comp tool. We highlight areas we want. Turn snap off here, by the way. If we want to highlight that section and another section and then another section, and basically choose the bits we want to hear. And what's great is once those areas are selected, we can click up and down in the various takes and hear the different ones. Multiple presses will flick between the previous two chosen elements. And once we have a series of elements we like, we can choose them, we can drag them onto another lane. Just pull them down here to create our perfect take. It removes them from the other versions. Pull them down here. And we can go through and do the same thing for multiple takes. So in effect, we're creating new lanes of our idealized take. And then we can actually use those. We can actually double track with them. So we take maybe the first 2 or 3 ones that we like best, pull them onto another track. So we've got that could be our top chosen take, and then we do another set, and then another set, and we can keep on choosing the best kind of elements. So you might build up 3, and you actually then use those for your nice solid main vocal. Correction might take different forms, primarily perhaps timing. This will be timing of the individual vocal elements in relation to the rest of the track, but also timing of the backing vocals in relation to the main lead vocal element. We'll also perhaps think about the timing of drum recordings and how they relate to other content and how we can edit those en masse. Now once we've got all our elements, we can then put them in a audio part, so audio events to part. We double click on them all together, then they appear in their own audio part, which is quite nice and allows us to see them next to each other, sort of zoomed in outside of the project window. And we can then chop them up further in here. So these are basically a whole series of takes. And what we can do is if we wanted to change the timing of them, which is if you really want to tighten things up, choose individual elements, chop them either side, and then you can actually, if you use Control Alt, you can actually pull backwards and forwards, actually change the timing without having to change the start point of a particular piece of audio. And this is a great way of just tightening things up and go through and do it visually, tighten up those elements so they appear like they're all in time next to each other without resorting to any kind of other trickery in terms of audio quantize stuff, which doesn't necessarily work that well on vocals. Pitch is another consideration. Vari Audio and Cubase allows us to manipulate pitch in all kinds of different ways, but it might just mean correcting one particular problematic element. Double click on the audio itself and you go into the sample editor. Let's head straight for Vari Audio. If you click pitch and warp, it'll analyse the audio and then it'll actually give you this representation of the notes in here. And that allows us to really kind of delve a lot deeper and actually explore what's going on and actually correct the pitch if we really want to. Now you can really go to town with this. If we zoom in here, you can see that you've got the vibrato shown, you've got the notes, the approximate notes shown as well. If you highlight the audio and use quantize pitch or straighten pitch, what it'll do, it'll in a wholesale fashion kind of really basically roboticize those. You don't have to do that. You can just choose individual elements. You can nudge them a little bit one way or the other. So I think the main thing is get a good take and then maybe use Vari Audio to finesse things, unless you end up with a vocalist or a performance or an instrumental part which really is beyond saving in the sense of having to, there's no way you can actually record it again. Go in there and actually edit to your heart's content. You certainly can do this, and of course you can actually go back to the original as well. You can reset things and it'll take you back to the start. And you can just do it for individual phrases or notes. If we unmute these other tracks and we select them all together, you'll notice that you can actually go through and actually select them directly from that drop down in the sample editor. You'll obviously have to analyse each one, but it allows you to make comparisons, and you can see them in the background as well. So you can compare one track with another, one take with another. Really very useful. Alternative here is to use the Pitch Correct plugin, which is in the classic vein of classic auto-tune. It works in real time, it's quick and easy, you don't have to go through and start analysing the audio or moving things around, but it can sound very robotic if you push it too far, which may be what you want, but also the results you can tend to hear them more than you can do with something like Vari Audio. Also, if you want to get into a lot of detail with the editing and you have Wavelab, you can use Direct File Exchange, which will automatically open up audio files within Wavelab for editing. You can highlight audio, and this new feature where you can actually go through and in the audio menu, click on Edit Wavelab, it'll open Wavelab, it'll open up the audio for editing directly. So this is a really nice way of accessing maybe some of the more advanced functions if you really need to dive in there. It's not necessarily something you're going to be doing for your vocal takes and so on, but the facility is there nonetheless. Another very useful feature is track versions. So if you want to try out and test different comps, different ways of editing a track, you can save a version of the track state. And so you've got, for example, V1, and then we call this one V2. We then make some edits to this V2 version, so we can delete certain lanes. We could move a whole load of different things around. So let's go in here and start deleting some V2 elements. And you can see we can flick between the two versions of the track, and it'll actually straight away bring up this different set. Really another excellent feature which allows you to make decisions perhaps more easily, be a little bit more ambitious in terms of the way you want to try things without being scared of losing stuff. Let's revisit our drum elements. Now we've looked at how we actually go ahead and actually comp and edit the vocals. We got our drum kit from earlier, and what we did, we got group editing enabled. This allows us to do some very clever things in terms of quantizing. If you're using multiple mics on a drum kit, you can't just go and quantize the tracks individually willy-nilly. It'll start moving things around and cause some serious phase issues when you come to mix the track. With this enabled, this group editing enabled, you can choose a priority in terms of where it gets the hit point information that's going to be used for quantizing. And then you can quantize, and it'll move everything, all these tracks together by the same amount, so their relative phase relationships stay the same. And this is really important when it comes to actually editing multi-track and multi-mic recorded drum elements. So we've done that, and then we've quantized them so it fits in with a slightly more metronomic rhythm from those original hi-hats. So we've corrected the timing. The flip side of correcting the audio in terms of transients is to use audio warping. Now, audio warping can be a very useful creative tool, but it does start to play around with the sonics. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it on vocals in terms of altering vocal timing. I think that's something that I'd steer away from. But in terms of other things, it can be pretty useful. So we've comped up our vocals and we've edited our drums. In the next episode, we're going to be looking at getting a great vocal sound.